Thank you all again for joining. I'm Regina. It's my friend Il.
Hey, what's up, guys?
I know him by many different names. I'm super thrilled to welcome you on behalf of the Filipino Googler Network to YouTube.
Well, first of all, thank you guys. Thank you, Regina, for having me. Shout to YouTube. We got a packed house here, you know. Fucking sold out, baby. You know, I have this like really deep passion for speaking on the music business and what it's like to be a music producer, what it's like to be an upcoming music creator and want to like break through and make it into a career. And I guess from kind of doing that, I've become sort of this like educator in the space too, and so you know, I'm definitely appreciative of that. So yeah, I'm just here kind of, you know, pursuing my passion, and music production is my passion, and that's what it is. So
before you got to being here in the Bay, let's go back. And you know, every Filipino parent grows up thinking, oh yes, my son is going to grow up to be a music producer.
Yep. No, absolutely not.
Can you tell me about how you got to this place?
Totally. So I sort of grew up in a musical household. So I think if not being Filipino, you know, I think a lot of people aren't familiar with like Filipino culture in terms of like the arts. And I think, you know, music has always been like a big factor in Filipino culture. You know, like even back home, all like the cotillions and the celebrations and all just like the ancient like musical culture in the Philippines is so like deep rooted in the Filipino culture. So my dad was a musician. He played guitar, and you know, he's got like 3 brothers, and they all like play instruments and they sing and all that stuff. So when I was growing up, I grew up in New Jersey. And I remember every weekend we would take trips up to the Bronx. So it was like New Jersey, the Bronx, New Jersey, Bronx. And I remember going up to the Bronx during the weekend, and it would just be like jam sessions where my dad and all my uncles would just like play instruments and sing. And I was just always around that. Even when I was home, my dad had just like keyboards and guitars and drum sets all over the place. And he had a pretty awesome like record collection too. And I started doing my research, and I started finding people like, you know, DJ Premier and Jay Dilla and Timbaland and, you know, the Neptunes and like how they're able to produce music. I started collecting records, and I started with my dad's record collection. He had this record called Pinoy Jazz, and it's like this super rare like record from the Philippines, and it's just like jazz music from the Philippines from like the 1970s. And I started like becoming inspired by that record and hip hop, and so that drove me to start like actually making beats. And I kind of just like never stopped. You know, I was just like a kid who was into music but also video games, like super heavy. My first idea, the first thing I thought I would become would be like a video game like engineer. I was like really into like programming and C++ and BASIC and all that shit. In being into video games, I was really into like video game music as well. And then from there, like I said, I was making music, started making beats, and I just kind of never stopped. So, you know, going back to the Filipino part, like being Filipino American and having Filipino parents, it was definitely difficult early on because they didn't really fully understand what I was doing with my life. I mean, I have an older brother who did the thing. Like, he's like, and he's super like happy and content with life. Like he's like an accountant manager at like KPMG, and like he's a homeowner, and he's got a family, and he really did the thing. And I thought that I was, you know, supposed to do the thing too, like go to school and do this and do that. But I didn't do that, you know, and so my parents put pressure on me for sure early on. Like the first few years were difficult because I wasn't going to school, I didn't have a job. I was basically in my mom's basement like making music all day. And you know, that was tough for them, and I don't blame them for that. But I had to prove to myself, and I had to prove to them that this was my passion and this is what I really wanted to do. Honestly, I think at this point, like, I think my mom just started like getting it like last year, you know what I mean? So it's very new, and and I guess we'll get to it eventually, but you know, the past 3 or 4 years have been like huge milestones for me, but people don't really see the previous 10 years to lead up to the recent success. So yeah.
The one that really put you on the map and introduced you to others, the Kanye. What are some other pieces that you think really like elevated your access to others? And like you talk about connecting with Lynn, and I know there's a viral story to that.
Relationships really are everything, and I know that's probably true in you guys' world too, in tech. Like, it's being good at what you do definitely matters, but you don't have to be like the best at what you do. What matters more is knowing the right people, and those people that can change your life to be willing to change your life. And people who have the power to like move the needle and have the ability to change your life won't be willing to change your life if you're a dick. Being good with people and just being a good person really, really goes a long way. And I think that's super underrated. You know, everyone focuses on like, how do I become successful? And I need to do this statistic and do this every day and read this book and watch this thing. And it's like, yeah, all that stuff is like pretty cool, but how about like just be a good person? Over the years I learned that, and going back to Lin-Manuel, you know, the Hamilton boom and all that stuff. Lin got wind of my music because of an album that I did with this rapper named Joel Ortiz. Me and Joel Ortiz released an album in 2015 called Human, where I produced the album and Joel Ortiz did all the raps. And Joel Ortiz just so happens to be one of Lin-Manuel's favorite rappers, like of all time. And so Lin heard the album, he started following me on Twitter, and he DM'd me and he was like, yo, I love those beats. Like, I love the album. And I hit him back and I was like, dude, thank you so much. Like, I'm a fan of what you're doing. Like, I appreciate it. And we ended up hitting it off, and I ended up producing some music for him. And that led to Disney, Moana. And Lin called me about that. You know, he was just like, he called me one day and he was like, hey, Illmind, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm in the studio. And he was like, hey, so I'm kind of getting off this Hamilton stuff and I'm working on this movie with Disney and wondering if you want to like produce some music for it. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Shit, man, like wondering. Like, you wondering. Tell me what to do, tell me where to be, you know? Go out and meet people and take a chance and keep in touch with people, follow up, and just kind of let the universe unfold. Sometimes you have to just let things happen as opposed to just expecting so much, right? So, favorite thing about what I do is just being able to wake up in the morning and feel like I have a purpose, right? Feel like I'm consistently working towards something, whether it's a song I produce or the excitement of like making a track and knowing that one day that track can turn into like a Grammy, right? Or not, you know, the excitement of like not knowing is also exciting for me. You know, being able to know that I am like sort of an influence in this tribe of people who are creators and who are aspiring to do this for a living and who aspire to pay it forward and help people, you know, and like doing the YouTube videos is super fun. Shout out to my man Josh who films me everywhere. He's like my D-Rock with like Gary and shit. So filming and doing my podcast, I have a podcast every week called BLAP Chat that I record every Thursday. And I'm just excited for the growth and the future and just continuing to do what I do, man. By the way, can I curse or is this like inappropriate? Okay. Well, it's too late now. It's way too late now. I mean, being Filipino is just like, it feels great. It feels amazing. I mean, you know, when I first started getting into production, I thought that being or just being Asian in general, but just being Filipino was like, I'm going into this as a minority. But no one really like carrying the torch or like opening up the doors for us. And so, you know, I thought I was gonna go into it like and that being like a crutch for me, or being like very difficult for me. But it ended up being the opposite, and it ended up being like me meeting people and then being like, yo, that's that Asian kid. That's that Filipino guy that makes beats. In a studio in Manhattan, this was when I was living in Jersey at the time, and you're talking about the president of G-Unit Records. Like, they have like guns in the studio and stuff, like fully loaded clips, right? So I go to the studio and we go to the roof and I'm talking to Shamani, and the first thing he says was, yo, Illmind, what's up, man? Yo, I love your beats, man. You got that fire. You got that Filipino fire. And I was like, yo, I appreciate that. So that like kind of like fucked my head up, because I'm like, dude, okay, Filipino fire. I you know, I could roll with that.